Next, from the state capitol, we talk with two volunteers with the March of Dimes, a nonprofit organization that was involved in defeating polio 60 years ago. We learn what the March of Dimes mission is today and how that mission is being carried out in Illinois. This runs about 12 minutes.
Brent Miner and Susan Knight, you're with the March of Dimes, and we appreciate you joining us on the Illinois channel. And before we start, I just want to say that I may be representative of a lot of people. I didn't necessarily know the March of Dimes was still around. I tend to associate it with Franklin Roosevelt when he was afflicted with polio, and the March of Dimes was very instrumental in winning the battle against polio, and thank God for that. What is it? Tell us, what is the mission of the March of Dimes these days?
Well, actually, when we had corrected the polio issue, which is, by the way, an American, there are still problems with polio throughout the world. But the organization, which is the only charitable organization ever to cure the problem for which it was established, began looking at what we should be doing next. We decided we ought to take a look at birth defects. And at that time, there were identified about 300 birth defects. Today, there's well over 3,000 birth defects, and it's an ongoing problem, and it has grown and grown and grown. So our function right now and our focus is prematurity. We know that if we can, in fact, if a mother can carry baby to the right delivery date, that we will reduce significant problems.
And Susan, you're with the March of Dimes. Tell us what you do and why are you here? We're here at the Illinois State Capitol. What are you doing here today?
Yes, I'm here today because the March of Dimes tries to address the issue of prematurity in multiple ways. We do research, we do education, and the third thing we do is advocacy. We certainly need to enlighten our legislators and the general public about the March of Dimes and how important it is to address the issue of prematurity. We've been on a prematurity campaign for a number of years to prevent prematurity. Not only would it save anguish of many families of having babies born too early, but it also would save well, $26.2 million nationally is what it costs per year for the first year of a baby's life that is born prematurely. And that can be up to 10 times the cost that it would be for a baby that's born to term. So it's both cost savings and also quality of life.
I think there's 22,000 babies born in Illinois every year prematurely. And actually, as Susan indicated, the cost is just absolutely astounding. And one of the things that we need to talk about is ways to reducing those costs, and that's what we're talking about today. And of course, we're in a very difficult economic climate right now, with the Senate and the House looking to cut costs. We recognize that, but we would like them to, if at all possible, fund as much of the issues that we're trying to deal with, which is the same reason everybody else is down here.
Well, and that comes obviously in a time when the state, as you mentioned, is in a tough economic situation. They're looking to quit spending rather than add spending. Right. I know sometimes we hear the arguments from various groups that if you actually spend money in this direction, you'll save money in the long run. Is that an argument that you're making?
Yes, that's absolutely true. There's no question. It's 3 to 1?
Yes, and actually this relates very much to one of our agenda items today, and that is, as we know, we have a huge deficit in our, well, in our state in general, but certainly in our Medicaid area. And so one of the things that the governor has proposed is a cigarette tax. And we're looking at that really from two perspectives. One, if that tax were to be imposed, it would discourage young people from starting smoking at an earlier age. And we do know that smoking causes, or is related to low birth weight babies and related to prematurity. So that if we stop those habits early on, then we will be saving ourselves lots of anguish and funds in the long run.
I think politically one of the main issues is it's called a cigarette tax, and of course the money is to cover a part of the loss as a result of Medicaid, and it's really, in addition to being a tax, it's really a health issue. And I think the word tax gets caught up in the issue when actually we should be looking at what it would be if those folks did not smoke and the positive effect on the healthcare system.
Let me go back to I think we kind of backed into the issue, and I want to go back over, when you're talking about premature babies, what is it that you have, what research shows what about how can we avoid having premature babies? I am probably, again, like most people, uninformed on the topic to the extent that you tend to think of this as being an act of God. Is there something we can do so that babies go a full term and avoid the health risks, Susan?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing to understand is what prematurity really means. A lot of people think, 9 months pregnancy, that's 36 weeks. In fact, a term pregnancy is 40 weeks, and what's technically premature is a baby that is 37 weeks or younger. We've seen the greatest growth in prematurity in what we would call early preterm babies, the 34 to 37 week babies. And one of our big campaigns has been also to look at this issue of electively delivering babies. In other words, based on either the physician's wishes or the mother's wishes to deliver before 40 weeks. And we've actually, through research, found that these babies do have potential breathing problems, feeding problems, often get rehospitalized. Sometimes they're neurological issues that follow that. So we're really trying to attack from multiple perspectives. Prematurity is not there's no single cause of prematurity, and we know we can identify about 50% of the causes of prematurity. The other 50% we don't know what causes.
What are some of those? And this is the issue. In other words, if you had your way, what would you do to prevent babies being born premature? What can we do?
Well, I think good prenatal care. One of the problems is that too many mothers are getting into the healthcare system long after their actual pregnancy. So if in fact they were getting prenatal care, which again is one of our strong issues, the outcome would improve dramatically.
Yeah.
Does this tend, if we look at society at large, is there one segment of the society that tends to have babies, premature babies, more often than other segments?
We do know, and this has been a long-standing disparity between women of color and white women in terms of prematurity rates. They're much higher among women of color. There have been all kinds of looking or examining what that issue is about and why that has been the case. Because even when you control for economic status and for education and all kinds of other things, there's still this discrepancy. So that is a very troubling issue that we're trying to address. We do know that there are certain solutions that we've tried in our state, in our chapter, through the programs and public affairs division. We have funded programs that provide what's called enhanced prenatal care. One of them being a model of group prenatal care that provides education, support, and care of the woman during her pregnancy. And found that with those women, their prematurity rate was about 6%. And when you compare that to our state rate in 2008, which was the most recent we had when we did the comparison, it was like 12.7%. So we really were able to impact through this group intensive prenatal care with a model that involves education and support and good quality care, that we can really make a difference.
There's always never enough time, so let's move along. When you are talking to lawmakers, you're seeking more funding. How much more are you seeking, and what kind of response are you getting from the lawmakers?
Well, it's interesting you say that. One of the issues, of course, is Illinois and our pension problem. We're asking for continued funding on its current level. I think that's probably an unrealistic approach, because it looks to me that everyone's going to take a hit here, and we need to be absolutely sure that the amount of loss that we're going to have is insignificant to the overall issue of the payment. What Susan said earlier.
What's a dollar amount? Is there a dollar amount that
We're not specifically asking for a dollar amount. We are hoping that programs that we know can impact on prematurity rates, prevention programs, getting women into care. One of the areas that we know is that women who've had prior preterm births are more likely to have a subsequent preterm births. So if we can engage those women in intensive postpartum care after having a baby, and do interconception care and take care of whatever chronic health issues they might have, diabetes, heart conditions, high blood pressure, that those women will be much more likely to have healthier pregnancies in a subsequent
I think one of the frightening things is the huge cuts that's coming in Medicaid, and we're opposed to that particular issue, but we recognize the need to do so. That's going to affect a large percentage of our constituency, so it's important that we find some alternative to fund what the loss out of Medicare would be, and the issue with Medicaid. I'm sorry. So the issue with the tobacco tax part of the idea of that is that a large portion of that, 500 million of it, would come back in if in fact that's the right number.
Point of clarification, does the March of Dimes get any taxpayers funding, or are you just advocating for continuing these other programs that are getting funded by the taxpayers to keep those funding levels?
Most of our fundraising involves individuals, corporations.
So you're privately funded.
So privately funded. We do have a grant through actually the state that's been very generous with us to do some preconception and folic acid. We know that folic acid.
I'm sorry, what's preconception?
Preconception means before having a baby, that there are certain steps that women can take to stay healthy before becoming pregnant. One of the main ones being taking folic acid, which we know, and there's been research to demonstrate that can help prevent certain types of birth defects. So women, a big campaign is to get women to take that folic acid both before and during pregnancy to have a healthier outcome. And
one of the things that goes on here in Springfield is we have trains running through the middle of town, so sometimes the horn gets loud. Before we close out, if people want more information, do you have a website or something that they could go to?
marchofdimes.com/Illinois. That will get people to the Illinois website. The marchofdimes.com website will be, there's just a plethora of information on that website. There's also a support part of the website for people who've had a premature baby to be able to get support from other people who've experienced that. There's research information on that website. There's information for consumers and all kinds of just wonderful, rich resources for women who are considering pregnancy.
And although planning doesn't always work, it would be important for a young couple to look at our website prior to conception, and there's a lot of good information in there, because quite often after the pregnancy may be too late for some of the folic acid issue that you talked about earlier. That needs to be done prior to conception.
All right, well, we appreciate you both for joining us on the Illinois channel, and we can follow up maybe at some point in the future with you.
Great.
Look forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity.
You're watching the Illinois Channel, an independent nonprofit corporation formed to provide gavel-to-gavel coverage of Illinois state government and other public affairs events taking place across Illinois.